Good morning and welcome to another video. I wanted to do a cool casual hangout and chat tag today on Tuesday. Tag Tuesday. I'm a real YouTuber. But when I was thinking about doing a casual chat hang video tag thing, as it were, for some reason I felt like I had to sit on the floor. And the only place in my house that I could decide to do was just to not sit on the chair that I always sit in. This was the only place with like a semi-interesting background that wasn't just a gray wall where my butt wouldn't hurt too much, so that's what we're doing. Also, for this casual sit down, we have the open window, so you might be able to hear the lovely sounds of birds and or traffic. It's one of the first semi-nice days out, so we gotta take advantage of it while we can. Today, we are doing the spoiler tag. So the reason that I wanted to do this is because of the video that you will be seeing on my regularly scheduled Thursday. I was doing a lot of talking in that video. It's already too long, but I was doing a lot of talking in there about spoilers and what I consider spoilers and trying to justify what I was doing. I saw Drinking by My Shelf already do a spoiler tag, so why don't I just make a whole content out of it? So that's what we're here to do today. Let's find the questions and get going. Question 1, what do you consider a spoiler? So in the most technical sense, I think legally, if you were gonna fight someone on it, if it's on the back of the book, it's fair game. While I do think that a lot of the time that sometimes can go too far, legally, I cannot sue you if you spoil a book for me by just saying what's on the back. But more in practice, I think it's anything that doesn't happen within the first third. Third is plenty a book. You got lots of time. Because I think even if it's not the big twist at the end, part of the joy is in the discovery. And so if I already know a thing that happens 3/4 of the way through the book, I'm just sort of waiting for that to happen. I also think that even knowing that there is a twist is a spoiler. Again, it's something that you're just going to be waiting for. It's not something you then get to discover by yourself. It's just checking off a box on a checklist. And I feel like the story doesn't really get going until everything that I knew beforehand is done. And I don't begrudge people for like saying that there's a twist. I love knowing that there's a twist, but I do find while reading that book, I'm just thinking, what is the twist going to be? What is the twist going to be? And it takes me out of the book a lot more. Also, I think the inverse, things that can't be considered a spoiler, would be things like trigger warnings. Even if it maybe reveals something at the end, it's fair. I feel like I have more to say, but let's see if the other questions handle that. Question 2, does the genre you're reading impact what you consider a spoiler? For sure, because I think most of the time when I think about spoilers, I'm thinking about thrillers. I think that's just the most severe example. I think you can definitely spoil literary fiction, or can you spoil historical fiction if it's an event that already happened? No. I mean, like, in your enjoyment, yeah, you would. But again, I can't legally sue you for spoiling that. I'm trying to think of if there was anything that I've read that wasn't a thriller where a spoiler mattered. I mean, there are things like romance where knowing that it has a happily ever after isn't a spoiler and just sort of accepted. But I think if you gave me a romance and said this isn't a happily ever after, that could potentially be a spoiler. So basically anything that goes outside of accepted tropes or something like that. Question 3, all the best bits are in the trailer. Sometimes the synopsis can be too detailed. Do you research books prior to reading or go in without knowing anything? I like to know basically nothing, and I think that has been the greatest asset of BookTube, is because I find people that I know and trust and have similar tastes to, and basically if they just say, hey, I read this book, it was 5 stars, I'm like, great, don't tell me anything else, I'm gonna read it. If the one sentence synopsis you can give me sounds interesting, I'm gonna read it. And I think having that level where actual people are able to tell me something and give me warnings about when they're gonna potentially spoil something, that gives me a lot more freedom to control the information that I know, rather than just like picking up a bunch of books at the bookstore and reading the backs of them. Basically just tell me this is a thriller, it has a good atmosphere, and I give it 5 stars. Done. So yeah, if you're someone who's very sensitive to spoilers as well, booktube is definitely the route that I would take. Question 4. Sometimes the introduction or translator's notes can spoil the ending, especially for classics. Has this ever happened to you? No, I think because I know that. So I just don't read the introductions for a lot of things. The one thing that I didn't get spoiled for, but I did find quite annoying, was when I was reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. The introduction, I think, is by Gillian Flynn, and she talks about how McNamara tracked down these cufflinks at one point. And I was just so confused, especially because I was audiobooking it and I'm like, I have no context. Who are we talking about? Where did these cufflinks come from? Why do they matter? And like, Michelle finding the cufflinks in the book didn't happen until a significant way through. So it was just annoying. And again, something that I kept being like, is this related to the cufflinks? Even though like, I knew nothing. I know nothing. So not a spoiler, but definitely something that affected my enjoyment of it. A very slight amount. It was still great. Still just a weird choice. I don't get why they do it. I mean, I get why they do it, but just put it at the back. Just put it at the back. I love reading stuff after I finish the books. I love reading author's notes. Book club questions, those are my jam. Just put it at the back. Number 5, name a time somebody spoiled a novel for you. I don't think a person has ever spoiled a novel for me. That's not true at all. I've definitely had things spoiled on booktube that like I just forget about. I just leave it long enough until I've forgotten and then I'll read it. But the thing that comes to mind was The Silent Patient by Michaelides. That was the big thing last year, 2 years ago, what is time? Where right on the cover, the blurb said, this has the greatest twist I've ever read. The twist happens basically right at the end. So the whole time I knew that there was a twist coming and I kept waiting for it. And I think that was really the reason that I pushed through, because that book was fine, but it completely relies on the twist. The rest of the book is really mediocre. The twist is great. I'm a fan, but I think if someone had just said, hey, this is a thriller, it's good, then I would have read it and I would have had a different experience. And maybe the twist would have gotten me more if I didn't know it was coming. Question 6. Have you ever spoiled a novel for somebody else? Probably, but like, I don't know. No one's ever complained to me about it. If I have spoiled a novel for you, I am truly sorry. I will attempt not to in the future. I'll spoil things for my husband all the time, and like sometimes he'll end up reading those books, but like I don't think it affects his experience. And he's so laid back, he wouldn't care about spoilers nearly as much as I do. He'll be fine. Question 7. If spoilers ruin novels, are there some authors or genres you can't reread? No, I don't think so. Sometimes, especially when we're talking about thrillers, when you get to the end and you get that twist, you want to go back to the beginning and find all the little clues that you missed on your first read through. And that can be really fun. I, in general, don't reread basically ever, so it's not a super big problem for me. I'm getting a flashing battery light, so I'm gonna stop talking now and go on to the last question. When reviewing, are you spoiler free? Does this limit your ability to discuss? I am split. So if there's something that I feel needs to be spoiled, I will absolutely do it, because I feel like that's also basically how I found BookTube. Is I read a book and I wanted someone to like explain the ending to me or something to talk about. So people want to talk about spoilers, so why wouldn't you spoil it? I just give ample warning, I put all the things on the screen. I think as long as I do my due diligence, I am perfectly within my rights to spoil things, so I'm gonna do it. But thank you for watching, and I will see you on Thursday. Get hype. It's gonna be a good one and also extremely long. Bye.